Hey guys, welcome back to Andy's Dinosaur Reviews, and today we are going to take a look at this brand new Sarcosuchus from Mattel for the Primal Attack Jurassic World line. A huge thank you goes out to Mattel again for sending this Sarcosuchus over to me in that incredibly awesome Primal Attack box that included many different figures and giving me an opportunity to review this here for you guys. Super awesome of them. Again, a huge thank you goes out to them for sending this over. Out of all of the new Primal Attack figures, this is one of the most exciting for me because it is very, very few and far between that we get a Sarcosuchus figure from anyone, but especially when it comes from the Jurassic World or Jurassic Park line. That just doesn't ever seem to happen as far as these very cool prehistoric crocodilians. We haven't seen too much of them when it comes to Jurassic Park or Jurassic World, but Mattel has now taken it upon themselves to create a Sarcosuchus right here for this Primal Attack line, and I think overall at first glance it is absolutely beautiful. Again, I've been really excited about this figure for a very long time, so I'm so psyched now to have it here to take a look at with you guys. Down here, as far as the box art goes, we've got Sarcosuchus right there, square in the center of the box on the bottom, and then we've got a shot of kind of someone controlling the action features of the Sarcosuchus over here, and then to the right we've got an image of Owen and Blue as always, and then once we turn it around, we've got yet another image of the Sarcosuchus, once again showing some of the action features, along with the other massive biter down here in the corner, the Tarbosaurus, which I do not have yet, but hopefully will have soon. So, without further ado, let's break this out of the box and get a look at it. So here is our Sarcosuchus, and I don't have his feet in the correct position. There we go, that's better. So yeah, here is the Sarcosuchus out of the package on the loose, and it looks awesome, just as awesome as I expected it to look immediately straight away. I think that the actual paint scheme is really cool. I would not have expected a maroon type color like you have on the back there. It's like a reddish brown. I did not expect that to look so good on a crocodilian type species, but it actually quite nicely does. The green on the underneath is definitely a natural looking color. It's something that you would expect to find on a crocodile or something related to a crocodile, a species of that nature. So that isn't too shocking, and I think that that coloration actually looks quite nice on the figure, but this maroon, again, it's not something that I personally would have picked for a Sarcosuchus, but I'm really quite impressed on how nice it actually turned out and how good and natural it really does look on the figure. So kudos to Mattel for kind of going out on a limb with that color, and it really did pay off quite nicely. But I'm sure you're like me and you're interested in what the detailing and everything looks like, so let's go ahead and get a closer look at it right now. So starting up here at the head sculpt, you can see that the head sculpt is really quite jam-packed when it comes to detail and the very minute skin texture and everything of this Sarcosuchus. Really wonderful, very large scaling all over the face area. You can also see kind of some scoots and osteoderms and stuff all over the head as well, so there's definitely a lot of sculpt work that has gone into this. Just specifically looking at the upper part of the head and the upper jaw, I think it really does have a beautiful sculpt as far as the detailing goes. Look how nice that scaling is as we run back here into the cheek area. Really, really fantastic looking scaling. The eyes are a yellowish color with a nice black pupil, and they are painted absolutely picture perfect as far as the way they're placed in the eye. You've also got a really nice, very realistic gloss, creating a beautiful eye shine to it there. The lower jaw also sports some incredible scaling, all very crocodilian-like scaling for sure as far as the way it's sculpted. Even the underside of the lower jaw looks great. Coming down into the throat, you can also pick up on some really nice scaling as well. You can see that the inside of the mouth has a pinkish coloration. That's one of the things that I'm not a huge fan of on the figure, because even though it looks really good, and I think that the coloration is a potentially realistic color, but I feel like maybe a lighter pink or something would have been a little bit of a better, more realistic coloration for like a crocodile type animal like a Sarcosuchus, but I could be wrong. Who knows? Maybe this is the actual color this animal sported. If you actually get a look here at the tongue, and now it's going to be a hard thing to focus on, but you can see that the tongue actually has an incredibly beautiful, very nicely textured appearance to it. Really, really nicely detailed the entire way back, and you also can see that it has an absolutely wonderful gloss coat to it making it have that very realistic saliva-y look to the inside of the mouth. The upper jaw also has a really nice gloss coat and also sports that same similar coloration to what you see here on the tongue, so definitely very consistent as far as the inside of the mouth, and the tongue is actually a slightly different shade of color than what you see over here on the skin flap, so that's cool to see some really nice color variation as well. If you take a look at the teeth, and there are plenty of them to look at, you can see that the teeth for the most part are actually really nicely painted. Each tooth is sculpted individually, so that really gives a lot of opportunity for error and paint mishaps, but you can see that Mattel has actually done an incredibly good job, and the closest thing you can say about these that would even say that they're close to sloppy would be every once in a while you can see that the paint kind of ends a little tiny bit before the tooth actually ends, but it's such a small little minor gripe, and it's just a tiny little area every so often that I personally don't think that is even remotely an issue, and the teeth overall look beyond fantastic. I really like the way the teeth look, and once you close the mouth they all come together so wonderfully, and look at how fantastic it looks. This Sarcosuchus looks great even with the mouth closed. Look at how beautifully they all mesh together, very realistically. Mattel just absolutely blows me away continuously with how good of a job they do on their figures. And then as we start to move back into the neck, you can see that that really nice skin texture, the wonderful scaling, starts to go from these very large scales to a little bit more of a finer type of a scaling, but at the same time, you can see that they are still fairly decent sized. As we move back here into where the shoulder area would be, you can see that the scaling continues and then starts to pick back up into very large scaling the further down into the leg we get, which looks really good, and the foot looks beautiful as well. Unfortunately, the nails are painted just the same similar coloration to the foot, but honestly, I don't think on this figure, on this style of a species, it really doesn't take away from the figure at all. And you can also see that the nails do still have somewhat of a gloss coat to them to help them shine pretty realistically, so that is a plus. Even the underside of the feet are actually sculpted really nicely. That scaling under there is beautiful. If you come back up here to the top of the animal, you can see that it has a very almost armored-like appearance with lots of scutes and osteoderms that run down along the entire back area, even some here on this side. You can definitely pick up on how wonderful the sculpt is all over. Really beautiful skin texture, again with the really nice kind of larger scaling here in the stomach and midsection of the animal. And then again, just like the front leg, once we get to the rear leg, these scales pick up and start to get very large, similar to what you saw on the face, and the rear leg is again sculpted really nicely. Beautiful looking sculpt for sure. Beautiful foot sculpt here with the really nicely sculpted nails. They contain that gloss once again. You can also get a pretty good idea of the musculature here of the rear leg and the calf and thigh. As you move back up here into the body, you can see that the scaling does start to pick up again. They start to get larger, and as we run out the length of the tail, you can really take note of just how large those scales get. Really beautiful as we head out to a very nice curve here at the end. Very nice natural curve. And the large scutes that are kind of like ridges that run along the tail, they get very large here at the end of the tail. So it's really cool that they do vary in size depending on where you are at the body. They start out really small up here, then they start to get a little bigger about the hip area, and then they kind of get a little bit smaller, and then they get a little bit bigger, then they get really big, and then they get really small. So that looks really cool in my opinion. Definitely some beautiful sculpt and detail on the part of Mattel. Looking at the opposing side, once again, you can see the eyes are painted perfectly. They are both facing forward. So there we can see that he is looking quite nicely straight at us. So that is very consistent as far as the eye and the pupil placement goes. Definitely looks really cool. I love that they've actually made sure that the Sarcosuchus was looking forward, looking like directly at us. That looks really good. Again, you can see the scaling and even some skin folds and skin wrinkles here in the neck region. As we move back into the body, the scaling and skin texture of the body is pretty much going to look just like it did on the opposing side. Once again, you can see both legs sport that incredible, very large scaling, and then the beautiful foot sculpt of both feet with the very nicely sculpted nails. It is honestly amazing how well sculpted this is. Really nicely done. Even the underside sports that very nice scaling, but that very soft type of a scaling that you would expect to find. It really does feel like it would be a very soft texture if you touched it. But it actually, of course, is not being a Jurassic World toy, but it definitely has that very nice dose of realism within the sculpt of the figure. Beautifully sculpted as far as the underside goes. And then we get back here into the tail once again. We lead back into the tail, the very large scaling picks up, and it looks fantastic for sure. So the sculpt overall is beautiful, and personally looking at it here, I really can't see anything that I would dislike on the figure at all. I think Mattel has just done an overall incredible job on this. As far as the action features of our Sarcosuchus goes, and then of course our articulation, but as far as the action feature goes, we've got the tail back here. We will use the tail to basically control the head as the two are connected. And actually, let me turn them the other way, so this will make it a little easier for you guys to see. So once I move the tail around, I can move the head to maybe almost insinuate the death roll that a crocodile more often than not does to take down its prey. So you can grab a hold of something by pushing this button here, grab your animal, your dinosaur, whatever it is, and then start the death roll, and then you just have to roll your Sarcosuchus on your own. But I really think that the action feature looks really cool. You can see that that movement is very, very smooth, works perfectly. You can also turn the head like this, so maybe you want to insinuate that your Sarcosuchus has an animal and is now just kind of trying to shake it and maybe beat it to death. You can also pull off that action feature as well, and the movement is really, really smooth. Every way you move the animal, you can see that you've got just an incredible range of movement within the head. Really, really nice action feature as far as this massive biter Sarcosuchus goes. I think the only thing I can say that is a slight downside when it comes to the action feature is that when I push the button, the mouth only goes to about there. So it doesn't close all the way. We know the mouth can close all the way if we push it shut, and there you can see it, and it actually does stick from time to time and stay closed. I've even taken my hand off the button and everything. It still stays closed, but once you actually use the attack feature, you can see that the mouth doesn't close all the way, but that's just a very, very small, very tiny gripe. Nothing that I would really complain about, honestly, because I don't think it takes away from the figure or anything like that. Just something that maybe can be fixed for future releases. But again, the action feature still looks great, and even if the mouth doesn't close all the way, it still looks really, really cool, and 100% serves the purpose that it is here for. As far as articulation goes, again, you've got the articulated jaw, which we've seen. You've got the articulation in the neck, which is really nice. As far as the leg goes, you can move it forward and back really nicely. You can move it out away from the body, so now it kind of appears as though he's trying to fly. And then with the rear leg, you can also move this one forward and back, although it's a little stiff because I haven't moved it yet, but there you go. You can see that it does move forward and back. It can also move out away from the body, so you can see there that the leg is moving out and then coming back in, similar to the way a lot of the Mattel figures work. And then you also have the articulation of the tail here, which is also to control the action feature. So definitely some pretty nice articulation, pretty much what you would expect when it comes to a species of crocodile. For a size, as far as a length goes, from the snout to the tail, you're looking at about 14 inches or 36 centimeters for a length, and then for a height, I think we'll go to the top of the snout while it's open. You're looking at about 4 inches or 10 centimeters. For a size comparison, there is the Attack Pack Colovosaurus and Robert Muldoon there together, hopefully giving you a good idea of how well this Sarcosuchus sizes up, and also showing you that this is definitely a pretty darn sizable figure. It really has some significant size to it, which is always cool to have the larger figures in the line with the smaller ones. Definitely a beautifully sized Sarcosuchus. So this Mattel Massive Biter Sarcosuchus for the Primal Attack Jurassic World line is fantastic. Really, really nicely done. I am overall extremely impressed with this figure. When it was announced that they were going to be making a Sarcosuchus, I was really excited because, again, it's not something I would have expected to come out for the Jurassic World line, but boy was I excited that they were going to make one. And then when it was officially unveiled with the promotional images, I was really excited because I thought it looked pretty darn good for sure. And then here in person, I am blown away by just how incredibly nice this looks. It really does look fantastic in every possible way that I see on this Sarcosuchus. Personally, I am a huge fan of this figure. I have heard a few people have a few different gripes with it, and that they weren't super sold on certain things of the figure, but here in person, as far as I'm concerned, I am 100% impressed in pretty much every way when it comes to this Sarcosuchus. I think the sculpt is really, really nicely done. Beautiful, very large scaling in certain areas and varying sizes of scales in other areas. It gets to a point where they're almost very fine scaling, and then they pick up, and then they get smaller, and then they pick up. So the detailing of the animal is really nicely done. Beautiful sculpt work continuously on the part of Mattel, as they never cease to impress me when it comes to the overall sculpts of their figures and jam-packing them with detail. As far as the paintwork goes, I think the paintwork is really nicely done. Again, the color choices of that kind of maroon is surprising, but actually looks really natural and works out really well on the figure. And then you also have that very cool green, the green underbelly of the animal, which is kind of like a trademark when it comes to any type of a crocodilian species. Something that is often associated with crocodiles would be that similar color of green that you do see there, so I can completely understand why that was included. And again, it does actually look really quite natural on the animal. The eyes are painted perfectly, which is a plus, as there are concerns often when it comes to the eye placement on Mattel figures, but this one here, absolutely not a remote issue whatsoever. The teeth, all being sculpted individually, I think takes the figure up a few notches as far as just how incredible it looks. And the fact that all the teeth that are sculpted individually are also painted individually and painted beautifully really shines through just how much incredible work is put into these Mattel figures as far as this Sarcosuchus is concerned, because mine don't really have any sloppiness, and they also have that wonderful gloss on the teeth and on the inside of the mouth, very nicely insinuating a very saliva-y look and a very realistic appearance as well. The action features of the figure are really nicely done. Again, the chomping action doesn't close perfectly, so that's like one of the very few slight downsides to the figure, but there isn't really anything on the figure as far as what I would consider even a significant downside. Nothing that should ever deter you from wanting to purchase the figure, because this chomping action not closing perfectly may actually just be limited to mine, and you may find one that does it perfectly. But even with it not closing all the way, I still think it's absolutely fantastic, and the action feature still looks really, really cool. The movement, articulation, everything throughout the animal is wonderful as well. As always, when it comes to Mattel, it is jam-packed with fantastic articulation. So, if you want to pick this up, you can either order it on Entertainment Earth or on Amazon, actually, as it recently went up for sale on there as well. I will try to find a link to include in the description, or you can just pick this up at your local Target, because I do believe they are stocking it as well. So make sure you pick this up in one of those different ways, as it is a fantastic Mattel Jurassic World figure. And then make sure you also like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you in the next review. Thanks for watching.